Welcome back to Mysteries Crime Stories, the channel where we dive into the darkest crimes, the strangest cases, and the mysteries that have haunted generations. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe so you never miss these mysteries. Tell us in the comments what you think about the cases we cover, what you'd like to see in future videos, and share this story with anyone who would find it important. Now, let's begin. The Willamette River winds its way through Oregon. Calm and steady, a silent witness to generations of life along its banks. But in the spring of 1946, those waters gave up a secret so grisly, so haunting, that it would echo through history for nearly 80 years. It began with a burlap sack floating near the Wisdom Light Moorage in Oak Grove, a quiet community south of Portland. Inside that sack was not debris, not the refuse of river life, but the torso of a woman. Police rushed to the scene, stunned by what they found. The torso was neatly severed, the flesh pale from the cold water. Whoever this woman was, she had been dismembered with precision, perhaps by someone with knowledge of butchery or medical training, or simply a dark, methodical patience. The sack had been weighted down, tied with rope, and wrapped in wire. Whoever killed her did not want her found. But the river had other plans. The next day, more remains surfaced. 2 arms and 1 thigh bobbing in the current. Days later, the search widened. By October, additional parts of the body, the head, the other thigh, the pelvis, were discovered at scattered points along the Willamette. Yet, even then, the picture was incomplete. The woman's hands were missing. Her feet were gone, and they were never recovered. It was as if her killer had deliberately removed the very parts that might identify her, ensuring that fingerprints, shoes, and any scars or marks would be lost forever. The press quickly seized on the case, dubbing it the Wisdom Light Murder, after the place where her torso was first found. The public was horrified. Portland police and Clackamas County investigators worked tirelessly, canvassing morgues and hospitals, checking dental records, chasing down reports of missing women, but the victim, stripped of her identity, remained only a Jane Doe. What could be learned about her came from her body alone. She was a white woman, perhaps between 40 and 50 years old, around 5 feet 2 to 5 feet 4 in height, weighing roughly 140 pounds. Her light brown hair was streaked with gray. She wore dentures, and the lower teeth that remained bore fillings. Some of her clothing was found with her: a sweater, a coat, pin curlers still tangled in her hair, small, intimate glimpses of a life once lived, but no name, no history, no answers. Forensic science in 1946 was limited. Police took plaster casts of footprints near the dump sites. They compared dental patterns against local records. Theories swirled in the papers. Was she a missing Portland woman named Marie Nastos? Or perhaps Anna Schrader, a woman tied to political scandal? Both were considered but ultimately ruled out. The investigation pressed forward. But as months turned to years, the case grew cold. Worse still, vital evidence was lost. The dentures, the jawbone, even the clothing collected from the river vanished sometime in the 1950s. Without them, detectives were left with photographs and case files, but the body itself, the most crucial evidence, was buried quietly under a headstone marked simply, "Unknown Woman, 1946. The decades passed. The river forgot. Generations grew up in Oak Grove, never knowing the story of the woman whose body was scattered through the Willamette. But then, in the 21st century, cold case detectives returned to her file. In 2004, the case was briefly reopened, investigators hoping that modern technology might succeed where the past had failed. Yet, with so much evidence missing, even DNA seemed out of reach. The story faded once more into the shadows. Until now. In September 2025, nearly 80 years after her body was pulled from the river, the grave of the unknown woman, 1946, was located at Mountain View Cemetery in Oregon City. Beneath the simple marker lay the remains of the Oak Grove Jane Doe, thought to have been lost forever. Forensic anthropologists carefully exhumed the bones, preparing them for modern analysis. For the first time in history, the Oak Grove Jane Doe has a real chance to be identified. DNA may be extracted from her bones or teeth, then compared against genealogical databases. If successful, she could be traced to living relatives, a niece, a grandchild, even distant cousins, who might finally restore her name. Osteological study might reveal new insights, injuries, diseases, or markers that flesh out her life story. Isotopic analysis could indicate where she grew up, what she ate, or how far she traveled before her death. Each technique, unimaginable in 1946, now stands ready to speak for her across the decades. But beyond science lies something more human. For nearly 80 years, this woman has lain in anonymity, remembered only as a victim of one of Oregon's darkest mysteries. She has no obituary, no family grave, no headstone bearing her true name. Only silence. The exhumation in 2025 is more than just evidence. It is a chance to return her dignity, to give her back the story that was stolen. It is a chance to hold her killer, if not by name, then at least by memory, to account for what was done. Still, the mystery deepens. Who could have committed such an act? The deliberate dismemberment suggests planning, perhaps rage, perhaps a need to conceal. Was she the victim of an intimate partner, a stranger, or someone who sought to erase her identity for reasons we may never know? Why were her hands and feet never found? Were they deliberately hidden or destroyed? And what became of the evidence, dentures, jawbone, clothing, that might once have identified her? Even with modern science, some questions may never be answered, but one, the most important one, might soon be: who was she? In Oak Grove, the Willamette River still flows, as it did in 1946. Quiet, steady, indifferent. Yet for the first time in nearly 80 years, there is hope that the woman it gave up, Oregon's oldest Jane Doe, will no longer be a nameless shadow. She will have her name restored, her story told, her memory honored, and perhaps, at long last, she will no longer be known only as the Oak Grove Jane Doe.